What do you do when your fear comes true? We're going to talk about that today. Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast. This was something I heard in one of my teachers say, one great guy I follow in the personal growth space. And he talks a lot about consciousness. And if you want to know more about consciousness, I'd recommend you read the book, David Hawkins' Power versus Force, and other alternatives of David Hawkins' work as well. It's a long book, definitely worth reading. Or just, start off with just watch a short YouTube video on it. That's what you can do. Anyway, my teacher talks about all these different ways we can perceive life. And very deep, he's not necessarily a spiritual person. He is scientific. He's a self-mastery expert, and he's a very successful entrepreneur. And he talks about this idea that we're here in sort of like a classroom. We're learning as we go through life, and I think we are. And we get these harder tests as we go through to allow us to grow and to evolve. And this is what really resonated with me, rather than thinking like life's against me or thinking life's hard. And he talked about like sometimes something tough may come through, so you can face it and work through it, such as a fear. And I thought this was very true. And I realized it went on for me in my life. It happened to me. And wow, I am so glad it happened, right? And I'm going to be a bit vulnerable and share with you what it was. So I've always had this. So at a young age, I had this fear of abandonment. And that's because you may have heard my story before, because I lost a brother when I was young. I lost a lot of relatives when I was young, and there's some instances when I was alone. So the fear of abandonment was huge in me. And I think I'm not alone. I know actually most human beings don't like to be abandoned, to be like all by their own. For that, I know some of us are more comfortable being on our own and don't like being around crowds all the time. I like doing both, right? Personally, I like a mix of both worlds. But yeah, it was quite huge for me. And as a result, it was impacting through my life, my dating relationships. In fact, I'd often choose situations through my 20s where the girl was a lot more into me than I was into her. So I didn't have to worry about being abandoned because it didn't work out. I wasn't bothered. And then when I started, and I've only probably met like a handful of girls that I really, really cared about, and there was really strong feelings in some of them. And then like that fear would come up again. And I was in a situation whereby it was going really, really well. And suddenly it went from one extreme, and I'm glad it didn't work out because we weren't suited in the end. But at the time, I went from one extreme. It went from one extreme of us really close to like suddenly her walking away. And that really brought out my like worst fears, and I went into this fight or flight, this really dark place. And I realized as a result, it was giving me an opportunity to work through that fear of abandonment. And that was a huge realization. From there, I was able to do a lot more work on myself and say, right, I need to love myself even more. I need to look at this so that I can't abandon myself. Therefore, I can't be abandoned. I sat on myself. I went to an event. I went to a real good teacher in this area, this whole new community, went really, really deep to create this level of self-love and trust inside myself, and started attracting some awesome people as a result of this and opportunities into my life. And I was just grateful that I went through that. And I know when I was going through the situation at the time, I was like, I knew even though I was in this really tough place, like emotionally, my body was feeling it, that like something good would come from it, but it was just hard to like feel into that at the time. And that's an example of my life. Now, of course, there's other circumstances all different, but think about it in your life. Like, when something's like happened and you were like dreading it was going to happen and it happened and maybe it wasn't great, but it allowed you to evolve. So therefore, if you know it's going to allow you to evolve in the future, right? Why would we fight life? Why would we be so anxious? Because anything can happen. We do not have a say in things. We can only focus on our actions and our behavior to some degree. And that's what I do now. So I really want to share, not that I don't have, thinking of things and what could go wrong is actually quite useful sometimes so we can plan accordingly, right? But like trying to control life is not good because that's not our job. We can't do that. Surprise, surprise. Right. But actually, when the fear, sometimes I'm not saying I want your fears to come true and things like that, but sometimes when something happens, it's trying to teach you to move through it, if you can see it in that perspective. So I want to give a few tips proactively and then in the moment of what you can do that have worked for me. Number one, prime yourself daily mentally. Whether you're in a bad place right now, or bad, it depends how you perceive it, in a challenging place right now, very neutral, like everything's okay, I'm feeling all right, or like an ecstatic, like life is amazing, or somewhere in between any of those, right? Prime yourself daily, because when the challenges happen, it's going to be so much harder if you don't have the tools, you don't have the resourcing, the resourcing wasn't the right word there, the grounding within you, the calmness to be able to deal with more stressful situation. When it comes around, it's going to be very, very tough. So if you can ground yourself daily, whether it's like meditation, breath work, journaling, listening to someone, spending time with someone, going in nature, find something for you every day that's going to ground you, that allows you to prepare. It's a bit like that's like, this is the physical equivalent. Say that you have been training for a marathon and then the marathon arrives. Well, you're going to be prepared for it. But if you're not prepared for the marathon, you've never done any running, you're eating bad, and suddenly the marathon comes, maybe you're drinking as well, then you're not going to be prepared. You're going to get destroyed on the day, right? But that's the same with life. Like if you're not preparing for life, when it suddenly, and by the way, you don't know when the day's going to come as opposed to the marathon, but it's an example I had to use. If you're not training yourself mentally, not that things are going to go wrong, but like preparing yourself every single day, like the tough things are going to seem a lot tougher when they come around. So prepare yourself every day. Number two, find support when you can. If you're in a really dark place, find someone to support you, communities, people, because like people can see it from a different perspective. They can talk you through it. You don't want people who are like, I don't like people with fixes and like come up with a load of crap advice. But then sometimes when I ask for that, I do want people who are going to help me fix it as well, come up with ideas. So know what you want when you're looking for support. Do you want people just to hear you? Do you want people to help you fix it? That's what I'd suggest on that. And number three, know what's the real fear? Because often there's something deep behind it. And often the deepest fear is we're not loved, so therefore we're in danger of life or death. And then when you can sometimes see what you're fearing, like is actually that underneath, you think that's ridiculous. Like, are you fearing a talk? Because if you do a talk and you mess up, by the way, everyone messes up talks, then the fear is, I won't be loved, so therefore, that's usually the deep fear. I won't be loved, so therefore I'm in danger of life or death, which is not really going to happen if you give a bad talk, right? So when you can see actually what the deep-rooted fear is, you can sit with yourself and understand it a lot more and work through it. And then number four, surround yourself with courageous and calm people. If you're surrounding yourself with panickers all the time, you're going to adapt to that. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who are cool, calm, collected, and courageous, you're going to adapt to that as well. So that's what I want to share around, like when fear may come true. And actually, sometimes it's there to teach a lesson, to allow you to grow, to evolve. So that's just a perspective. But what he talks about today is prime yourself daily, no matter what place you're in. Number two, find the support around you. Number three, ask yourself what's the real fear. And number four, getting those courageous people more into your life as well, so that you can use them and role model them. So that's what I have for you today. I appreciate you for being here, and remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.